Good morning, everyone. I know it's quite early for some folks if you're joining us from anywhere outside of the Eastern time zone as well as Central, but I wanted to officially thank you for joining us for a very important and exciting conversation, all centered around International Women's Day, which is today. We are also excited to officially launch the Women's Network, which is one of the Alliance's resource groups that will be chaired by Middy Matthews and Jenni Welch. So I'll let Jenni and Middy take a moment to introduce themselves, and we'll start this exciting conversation with none other than Tami Bonnell. Middy?
Thanks, Octavius.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction, Octavius. I'm Middy Matthews. I'm from Ann Arbor, Michigan area. I'm a realtor and have been for 7 years. I like to just say that I'm kind of the best realtor in the entire area. That kind of just, it's easier that way, just to ball it up like that and let it go. And there's not much more you need to know about me that I can tell you in public. So go ahead, Tami.
I think Jenni was going to introduce herself first.
Correct.
Or Jenni.
Hi, I'm Jenni Welch. I am the co-chair of the Women's Network, and I am also the Wisconsin chapter president for the Alliance Group. I'm excited to just help out. I'm a local realtor here, and I'm excited that we can connect with other people and grow this wonderful organization.
Thank you, Jenni. And as I said, today we have an exciting, dynamic leader in our industry to chat with us about her experience as the, and correct me, CEO of Exit Realty. And Middy Matthews will be leading that conversation with Tami. So I'll hand it over to Middy and get us started.
Fantastic. Thanks, Octavius. We have Tami Bonnell here with us today. As you said, she is the CEO, which is, you know, that's a lot of title right there. Tami, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us what that means to you to be the CEO of this this fantastic dynamic company.
Well, I actually love what I do, and I get the good fortune of being able to help every single day, whether it's seeing something good in someone and pointing them 3 to 5 degrees in the right direction so that they can see something in themselves they didn't see before. I've been in real estate for more than 30 years. Actually, I sold my first house when I was 13, so we don't need to go that far back. But I've been with Exit since 1999. I started off as a regional owner, and then the following year I became vice president over the US, and the following year I became president over the US, and I became CEO in 2012. I love the opportunity to be able to work with our organization and with our people. And since it's International Women's Day, probably one of the things that's unique about our organization compared to most in real estate is that out of the top 19 leaders in our organization, 13 of them are female. So not only myself as the CEO, but our chief operating officer. We always pick the best person for the job. And really, the people that have their jobs were already doing it before they got it. We've kind of fallen in love with this organization, and our entire organization was built on human potential. And I think that's probably why we get so passionate about it and really love what we do.
That's incredible. So what I'm hearing you say is that usually the best person for the job is female.
You could pick that up out of that, but it's actually, you know, finding the best qualified person for the job. And I really love the fact that when you find something, when you find your lane, when you find something you're really passionate about, and they've actually done brain studies on it, right? And it matches up with your values and it matches up with your passion, your self-discipline takes over and you really get in that zone that brings the best out in you. And I think that that's truly what happened to the people that I get the privilege to work with.
That's amazing. We have a few questions that we want to ask you. I'm hoping that we, sort of put you on the rail here a little bit and see if we can't stir some stuff up. I'm going to just start out with the a little bit closer to your roots. Like, what challenges do you face when you opened your own brokerage, or when you started?
Well, I think that the challenges, and mine was more starting out a region. We weren't known in the United States at all. Exit started from Canada. And so we didn't even have one single real estate office in the United States when I started. And we're a little bit prejudiced in the US, thinking that we might be the biggest and the best, and we have 10 times the population. So it was really being able to build something from scratch, starting a brand in this country from scratch and not having anybody have any recognition or any knowledge of it. It definitely took some serious work. And I think that's why you need to be ridiculously passionate about what you're doing if you're going to be able to succeed. But I think, I've always had a handful of rules that I follow in business. First, surround yourself with positive people, right? People that get the most and the best out of you. I used to work for a man that really pushed me out of my comfort zone on a regular basis. And he took the high road on a regular basis too. And, you start to see things that you want to emulate in your world and in your life. So I think surround yourself with positive people that are in your camp, that get the most and the best out of you, but you also have to be surrounded by people that keep you grounded, right? That keep you down to earth, and that also make sure that they can have a conversation with you when you're not heading down the right path. And I think that's something people miss a lot of times. You really, you got to have some fans, and you got to have some people that keep pushing you, but you also have to have a few realists there that can, just tell you, okay, that's probably not your lane. You might want to hire somebody to do that. Those kind of things that really, really, really push you. And so having the balance of those two things, and also just acting on it. When you get a great idea, most people don't act on it, and they miss opportunities. We probably have somebody, just in the handful of us that are right here speaking, we probably have somebody that saw an opportunity, didn't act on it. Probably all of us at some point in time, we saw an opportunity, we didn't seize that opportunity, and then you saw someone else maximize on that, right? I love the story of John Bon Jovi. He sent out cassettes, right? We're old enough to remember that. He sent out cassettes all over the world to get the opportunity to play music. And he kept driving around in New Jersey, and there was a radio station that played the type of music he was performing. And he loved this DJ, and he finally got the courage. He drove around the building, just days, weeks, months, drove around the building. Then he finally got the courage, found out the guy really loved a certain kind of pizza, and brought it there, and had pizza with him on the radio. And they asked if he had any demos, and that's actually how he launched and really took off. But imagine if he didn't have the courage to jump in and do that. I think sometimes you got to really push yourself into that, whatever's going to give you that 10 seconds of courage to act on it when you get a great idea.
That's fantastic advice. All right, let's move on to the next question. Octavius actually wanted me to ask this. So I'm not gonna, take any credit for this, but there's a lack of women owners in large national or international brokerages. Why do you think that is?
I think that it's exposure. There needs to be exposure. So often people need to see an example of themselves, right? During COVID, I've spoken to probably 1,000 Girl Scouts, and doing Zoom meetings and talking about books and talking about them becoming their own CEO. But when I asked them, how many of you have ever met a female CEO? Not one single hand out of 1,000 kids has been raised. So if you're not exposed to those experiences, and not that everybody wants to become a CEO, but if you're not exposed to those experiences, how do you ever determine, okay, that's a lane? I was born in December of 60. I just turned 60. And I can tell you that when I was growing up, everyone was a flight attendant. And I think they called them stewardesses then, flight attendant, a secretary, or a teacher. That was everything that everybody pushed you. And if they pushed you to go in medical field, it was to push you to become a nurse. And I remember just thinking, I don't want that. That's not the lane for me. That's not going to work for me. But I think for a good chunk of people, you really need to see that example. So the more exposure to experiences, the better off. There's a group that started in California called Woman Up, and they're demonstrating the success and how all these women became successful because they determined that out of the top 100 brokerages in California, only 14 were owned by females. And so they decided they wanted to shift that because 70% of the people that are in real estate are female. And so I think the more you see that example, the more you see that that's a possibility for you. And whether that's owning a brokerage, becoming a manager, or moving up the chairs belonging to an organization, it's all about seeing an example set so that you can say, okay, I want to pick up the best out of that person and maybe try and take it to the next level. But I think it's more exposure to it than anything else.
Incredible. Thank you. Knowing all that you've learned in the real estate industry, what would you tell your younger self, or what would you do differently, if anything?
Well, that's probably a big list. It's probably a giant list. But first and foremost, honestly, I would be more prepared. A minute of preparation takes up 100 minutes of stress. And so if you're really smart enough, I was kind of the bull in the china shop. I'll just go after it and ask forgiveness after the fact, right? Or ask permission after the fact. And I definitely started that way. And then as you go through the learning curve of bumping up against walls enough times, you realize that that minute of preparation will save you 100 minutes of disaster. So being more prepared, doing my homework ahead of time, for sure, I would tell my younger self, and I would definitely tell my younger self to buy more real estate. And I think that that's a smart thing for everybody in this business. You know, when things are going great and, you know, we're in a crazy market and you're selling like crazy, make as much money as you possibly can and sock some away so that you can actually purchase, because we do see real estate go through cycles and it always will. Be smart enough to invest in it so that you can really build some true wealth for yourself. And so I would have started investing for sure younger.
That makes sense. Don't you think that going into something unprepared teaches you, though, to really think on your feet quickly and learn how to back out of the room? And, you know, I mean, I think that
you know what, I'm a martial artist. And so I can tell you for sure that I wouldn't want to not be prepared before going into a fight. When somebody's foot's coming at you at 60 miles an hour, you definitely want to be prepared, right? And so that whole idea of being able to practice and being prepared really does make a giant difference. And practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. But it's a good idea to fall. I don't know anybody that's strong or that has achieved great success that hasn't run into problems and hasn't developed some character by running up against a lot of things in their life. And some of them are your own doing, right? Your own mistakes of jumping out. And, you know, when you can step back and look and say, okay, I'm glad I did that because it opened this many doors, or it provided this other opportunity that I never would have had. And I think it helps with the humility and grace too, for sure. But I do think that now being prepared makes a huge difference, and knowing what you want. You really have to know exactly what you want. I think a lot of times people fall into this because it's the path of least resistance, right? It's a really easy, up until a couple of years ago. I live in Massachusetts, if anybody hasn't picked up on my accent yet. And so here, up until a couple of years ago, it was only 24 hours to get your real estate license. So 24 hours to represent the biggest investment most people will ever make. So I think a lot of people thought they could jump into it part-time and make a fortune without having to worry about honing a skill set. And they thought if they knew how to sell that they could really build something. Now it's a whopping 40 hours to get your license in Massachusetts, but it's a really easy threshold all across the country. And that's not going to give you more business. That's not going to help you, but picking up skill set is going to be incredibly important. And I can tell you, for me, I've broken 7 world records in sales, and I can tell you there's nothing fancy about me, and that I had to make an awful lot of mistakes and run into an awful lot of walls to have that happen. But probably the number one thing that I did differently than most people is I did as much homework on the person as I did on the product. So whoever I was going to go and represent, I put myself in their shoes. And that's easier to do today because you can Google them and friend them on Facebook and connect with them on LinkedIn. But how do you talk about the most important things in your life and the things that you really want if you don't build a relationship, if you don't build some sort of a bond. We can't make those assumptions that we know what other people are interested in. So I can't emphasize enough, doing the homework on people so that you can personalize what you're doing will help you to excel.
That's great advice. I ask people now to tell me about you and your family versus how many bedrooms do you want? Because a lot more from somebody that way. I know this kid wants to go play baseball or whatever, and that's going to help me to help them. And personal process, anybody can sell you a house with 3 bedrooms, so that's fantastic. And I like your whole take on the humility. I think that should be, if you need humility, this is a great profession.
It sure is.
It sure is. Oh man, this one, you learn it fast. So what top females do you identify with? Top female leaders do you identify with, or do you look up to for inspiration? Or do you have anybody that comes to mind that you are, when you're having a rough day, you kind of go, all right, I need to regroup and think about being more like her?
Well, I think that's obviously me speaking before, that we have 13 executives that are female out of 19 executives. So I definitely look at the people that I work with. Erica Gillio is our Chief Operating Officer. She's a really grounded, down to earth. It's a great person to ask what would you do? I was a giant fan of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And I think she just had so much humility and so much candor. She didn't let anybody get in her way. Diana Nyad, holy cow. Like especially if you're tired and you're really pushing it, to look at what it is that she accomplished physically and mentally, and how, so sometimes when you need a little extra stamina, you pull from wherever you need to pull from. So maybe somebody that I need to think about, I need to outthink my way out of this. That might be a totally different person than I need the endurance to go through this. And probably that would be somebody more like Diana Nyad. And I've become a really good fan of Arianna Huffington lately. I like that she's become so human and has really humanized everything that especially women in business are facing.
That's great. I'm not sure if I were put on the spot that I would be able to come up with a single name. So that's awesome. If you were to give, and I know you probably do this on the regular basis, if you were to give advice for a brand new agent, just licensed, who wants to get in the business, what would the first thing out of your mouth be? What would you tell them? How would you get them going? How would, what direction would you send them in?
Well, I think that the first thing is, and I'm going to go through a couple of things with you because I think it's really important. Number one, you have to know what you want. If you're coming in here for a quick fix, it's not going to happen. We see a tremendous amount of disruptors out there now, right? Mm-hmm. But a disruptor that is focused just on high tech and is not focused on high touch isn't going to survive the same as somebody that has tremendous skill set. Skill set will always win out. I'll give you a great example. I have a young kid that started with us a few years back, and he came up to me and he said, I'm going on a listing appointment. And I'm going on a listing appointment and I'm going to be the 4th person going through the door. I said, good for you. I hope you're the last, right? 4 people going through the door. And he said, what do you have for advice for me? And I said, do me a favor. Do your homework on the person that you're going to represent. And he said, I think he owns his own business. He found out before I finished speaking, I was talking about Investing in Opportunities Act and where the business was heading as a whole, the industry was heading as a whole. And he found out that he was in his 70s. I said, ask him some effective questions tonight. What are your real estate dreams? What would it take for me to earn your business? Why are you looking at listing your house? When do you plan on retiring? And ask him some serious questions. And he did. And the guy, the gentleman, he ended up getting business with him, but he didn't list right away because he said, I want to know what my house is worth right now to see if it's the most advantageous time. I've already got my mortgage paid off. I plan on retiring in the next 1 to 3 years. He said, where do you plan on retiring? He was going to retire a couple states south. He wanted to retire on the ocean. And he said, I can send you a referral for that. Properties are still going up where you are. If you want us to stay connected every month, I'll tell you when things shift. And longest story short, the other 3 came in with a CMA. And they came in and just went in for the jugular right for the presentation. They didn't ask any questions. He said, nobody's asked me these questions before. And it turned out that he not only did he list the property about 9 months later for $150,000 more than it was worth when he went in initially and met with him. But he referred him to buy a vacation property that he was going to turn into his retirement home. He taught him short-term rentals, and he bought 5 investment properties in that time frame. So this young man actually increased this gentleman's net worth by $2.4 million in a 2.5-year time frame. I'm pretty sure he's going to shout from the rooftops how great this kid was and what he did. But it's all about asking effective questions and finding out what's really important. And it has to be personalized, because not everybody's circumstances are the same. If I had to say one thing, and just literally that one sentence for people that are getting started, never ever forget that value equals income. And it's never changed. It's 100 years ago to today, value equals income. So I provide value to every single person I get in front of. And it doesn't matter if I ever sell to them. It doesn't matter, because that's not what I'm here for. And so I'll find out whose business philosophies match ours, and that person could be a potential agent or a broker or regional owner, or they could be a terrific referral source, or they might just be another ally or another connection that we build a relationship with. But add value every place you go. And so know what you want, surround yourself with positive people, do your homework, right? Have a 30,000 foot view, so the whole country, so you can see where trends are. Have a 2,000 foot view, the entire state you represent, because then it will also tell you some trends that are happening. And then have a street level view of the area that you represent. What's selling, what's not, where are the windows of opportunity? Maybe there's a hole somewhere that you can fill a need. You're going to find a need you can fill better than anyone else and fit the demographics of where you are. And then know what you're really good at, right? Nobody's ever going to ask me to fix their computer. Know what you're really good at, so that you're concentrating in the areas that you have strengths in, and do your homework. I recommend doing an action plan. So you have a business plan and you know what you want. You have a goal till the end of the year, but every month book off 4 hours halfway through the month, because more stuff hits the fan in the beginning and the end of the month. Halfway through the month, a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, and book off 4 hours to work on your life, not in it. And make it be a life plan, not just a business plan, and plan in advance. How can I maximize on that appointment? Who should I be inviting to this open house? What kind of homework do I need to do? And when you literally take that 4 hours, I've coached probably 20% of the top 500 power brokers in the country at some point in time. And I always tell them about having an action plan, and it's always the thing they come back to. You'll get better and better at it all the time. What podcast should I be listening to? Who should I be talking to? Who should I be learning from? What should I be paying attention to? Who do I need to do homework on that's right in front of me? And then my last point, I promise, is have a dirty dozen. A dozen people that work on the business, not in it. Appraisers, home inspectors, mortgage companies, insurance companies. Tell me everything that happened last year and what's changed in your industry. Tell me everything I should know today and everything you see coming down the pike. Not only will they know people on a street level basis, but they'll know where the trends are. They'll know where there are windows of opportunity that I might not know about. And they're going to help me to have an unbelievable skill set so that I don't let anybody fall through the cracks.
That's awesome. And you keep coming back to this point that, like, it's all personal. It's not about, the sale is sort of a byproduct of what we should be doing, right?
Right.
The sales are going to happen. I'm deeply knit into the bicycle community here. And
awesome.
What I do is I sponsor races, and I give them lots of stuff, and it's coming back to me tenfold. And it's a lot of the people that I'll maybe never sell their house, but they keep telling other people to use me. It all just comes around. Everybody knows.
And it's something you're passionate about, right? And so you can stick with it. Don't volunteer. I see people do it all the time. They'll volunteer for something and it's not a charity they're interested in, or it's not a cause that they're interested in. Make sure it's something that's in your lane. Make sure it's something that is something you're really, really passionate about, because you'll be able to stick with it. And that does really make a huge difference. But it's that adding value to the community and leading, they will always come back and point you out to everybody else. And I just think it's so important. A disruptor cannot do that, and I think that's something really important for everybody. You know what? I don't want this to sound derogatory. The competition is in my rearview mirror. And it's not because I think that I'm better than the competition. It's because I don't want to run into any blind spots, right? So I want to know what they're doing. But my business is in my windshield. And if I'm concentrating on what it is that I can do to improve on a regular basis and how I can help and how I can add value, I'm never going to have to worry about them. But if I change my concentration and I'm concentrating on others instead of what it is that I can do better, I'll lose.
Exactly. Such good advice. So let's get back to this whole thing about being gay.
Okay.
Because we all are. But you're an ally, and we love that. Being an ally, how do you think that allies can support our LGBTQ and any other letter you want to add to that community in real estate?
Well, I think there's a couple of things that are really, really important. Number one, don't assume. Don't make assumptions that everybody needs to be painted with the same brush. And I see a lot of people do that. And that's not, that's probably one of the biggest mistakes you can make. And that goes back to personalization, right? Find out what's really important to this person and what it is that they value and what it is they want and why they want it, so that you can really serve them well. Educate yourself. There are, we're in all across the United States, there are laws that are unfair in almost every state. And so bone up on it, get some education so that you understand the difference, and so that you really are practicing fair housing and you are making sure that there is diversity and inclusion. Don't make any assumptions. Educate yourself on the person and educate yourself on truly what's going on. Where can I jump in and make a difference? Where can I make a difference and actually add value? I think that's incredibly important. We have an office in upstate New York, and it's in an area where IBM used to be. And when IBM moved out, it completely devastated this town. It devastated it to the point about 60% of their business was coming from IBM, even if it was offshoots, right? And so all of the people came together into the town hall and said, okay, what's our priority? I love it. What's our priority? And they decided that their kids were their priority. So they put together a plan and decided they would recruit the best teachers they could possibly find. There was a lot more poverty in their town now. And so the teachers were averaging about $32,500. They decided to pay them $65,000 to $70,000 so that they could recruit in the best teachers. They provided free breakfast and free lunch 7 days a week, so no kid got a meal ticket, so that they weren't different than anybody else because there was so much poverty. And they agreed, properties worth $65,000 to $70,000. They all agreed to pay $7,000 a year in property tax on property that little, because a little bite for everybody made a whole difference for the whole entire community, right? I think it is about asking those effective questions. Really, what are your dreams? Where do you see yourself in the next 1, 3, 5 years? What's really important to you? And it's making sure that you're finding out what's really important, and even educating yourself to the point of all the things that aren't fair to help make them fair. Do everything in your power to be an advocate.
Awesome.
I have my oldest brother is gay, and when he first came home and told our parents, we're product of the 50s and 60s. I was born in 60, and he came home, and I think I was 13. He came home from college and told our parents he was gay, and my dad offered him $10,000 to never come back, and that stuck with me, well, forever. It still makes me cry. And I cried for months, and he didn't take the money, which we still have a running joke that would have been a lot of compound interest by now. And thankfully, a couple of years later, they learned to connect and forgive each other. And they were very, very close before our parents passed away, which was great. They got to be really close, and we always still had that running joke. And he just recently retired, and I didn't have the compound interest, but I did send him a check. And told them that was the compound love. And I think, when you experience something like that really young, you realize that not everybody is treated fairly, and hopefully you do something to act on it. And I think that was certainly part of where the passion came for me, no doubt about it. But we're all connected. Every single human being is connected. It doesn't matter what planet what continent we live on. It doesn't matter any of that. Every single one of us is connected. And so that means that you're part of me and I'm part of you. We don't have a right to decide to come in and judge anybody's life or lifestyle. Our job is to make everybody's life better, right?
Exactly. Awesome. That is a great story. My brother's gay. I think I like your brother better.
He's funny. He's funny. He's awesome, actually.
So you're a part of Exit. I'm just wondering what tools and technology you guys use over there, or you personally, what is your sort of go-to tools and technology? It's a constant conversation for me with other people in my industry is what are you using? What's working for you? Because it's ever changing, you know, like I find that my Facebook ads are dead now and not worth putting a dime into. So I'm changing again. What's new and what's happening? And what are you doing?
Well, we're actually having tremendous luck with Facebook, and I think that it's working really closely with them to find solutions so that you can match up with algorithms and you're getting a response for what it is that you're doing. But we have one of the things that I think we did really well as a company. We have a chief technology officer that is brilliant, and he has a ridiculous amount of patents. And we decided early on, kind of like we were born for this, we decided early on that we were going to make sure, because we're going to constantly be growing, right? We're recruiting agents, bringing in teams, selling franchises, doing mergers and acquisitions, and a lot of people using other technology, that we wanted to make sure that everything we had was adaptable, that they could plug and play. They don't have to stop dead in their tracks because they're going to have to change into a different technology. We can plug everything in. But in looking at all the acquisitions, and there's going to be a bunch over the next couple of years, we're already seeing a tremendous amount of it, right? Everybody wants to get their tentacles into this space. And so we wanted to make sure that we were protected. And if anybody falls out, they get acquired by another company and it's not a fit anymore, that we actually can plug in something else, and that we can always plug in something else. But we have our own foundation of technology that we have mobile business cards. So if you text 85377 and just punch in TAMI, that's my first name, hit send, you'll get my mobile business card sent to your phone. And it'll show you my face and all the ways to contact. You hit a black button and I go into your contacts. Now, especially with COVID, nobody has to touch anything, but it's kind of that wow factor that you have it with you all the time. You're never going to be without it. We have smart sign technology. So if you pull in front of a listing and you text 85377 and punch in exit, you're actually going to get the listing sent to your phone. So they can drive around and look at 10 properties. They only want to go into 2. And it gives the consumer control, but it also gives our agents control. We have an app that gives them the transparency and the speed that they want to have. And we have a digital marketing strategy. So everybody comes in and they have a perfect foundation for getting started. And then they can start to add as they see things that make more sense for them, or as they start to make more money, right? They can start to invest in themselves. But we do a lot of homework for them up front so that we can make sure that works. I'm constantly utilizing the app. In the back room, we have Memo, Managing Exits Momentum Online. And so we can see everybody's business, everybody's company in real time. So I know exactly what the strengths of that office are and exactly what the strengths of the individuals are and what they need to work on, so that I'm adding value when I come, because I have the right accurate information, right, to be able to help them to grow to the next level. Those are specific to us. I use a lot of, probably the biggest thing that I use technology wise, really, other than my iPhone, right? A tremendous amount of apps that help me. Maybe it's because I've worked 100 hours that week and I need a meditation app to quiet down, or I just need something, Evernote, because I have another idea for an article or something like that. Those are the things that I use more than anything else. And everything to do with travel, because obviously when we're not in the middle of COVID, I'm usually on more than 100 planes a year. So everything to do with speed and travel helps me tremendously.
Understood. I'm a big fan of Evernote. I put everything in there. It's like everything.
I love Evernote. But you know what? Podcasts too, even though it's not a tech tool, it's a tool for your mind all the time. So finding really good podcasts and making sure that they're on your phone all the time really does help too.
We've started podcasting over here, in fact, because I think that everybody listening to little tidbits on your ride to work. So we're doing some 20, 30-minute podcasts, just, work long,
awesome.
Learn about real estate as you're driving around and hopefully having a good time doing it. So that's kind of nice. I had one quick question. If you had a new agent in front of you who had, I don't know, a small bank account, and they wanted to dump it into some sort of advertising that was definitely going to bring them some business. Now, all of our areas are different. Your region's going to be different than ours. I'm in Michigan, so what works here may not work there. But if you were to say, okay, put all your money in this advertising, this type of advertising, say it's billboards or print ads, what would be your go-to for an agent who wants to get some traction? I mean, it could be flyers and door knocking. I don't know. Where would you have your new agent?
Well, that goes back to where the person's personality is, though. I wouldn't give one answer, and it wouldn't be one answer to each person. We do personality profile tests, so we determine where somebody's strengths are, right? There are people that are task oriented, and there are people that are people oriented. So knowing that, so that they know who they're going to be able to serve the best, understanding what their market is. Okay, so where is my best reach? What are the things that I can do that will be my absolute best reach? It goes back to that minute of preparation saves 100 minutes of stress. An active database that you're constantly connecting with. Right now, videos have been working incredibly well. Social media is working incredibly well, but it has to be suited to where it is that you're target marketing. Be where those people are. If I'm target marketing, and I can tell you a couple of windows of opportunity, but if I'm target marketing luxury, I'm going to go down a totally different path than I am if I'm targeting first-time home buyers, right? They're not looking at the same thing as a general rule unless they were incredibly successful at a very young age. First-time home buyers are not going to be under the same umbrella. Seniors aren't going to be under the same umbrella. Veterans aren't going to be under the same umbrella. So find your lane first, and then you've got to be able to market. I would use a lot more social media if I was after first-time home buyers than I would if I was after people that were 60 and older, right?
Right.
I'm going to go to a completely different space. But the key is to get in front of as many people as you possibly can, and never ever lose sight of the fact that having a digital marketing strategy, having an active database that connects you with people all the time really does make a huge difference. And get involved in something in your community that you think you can add value to, so that people start associating a name and a face and really get to connect. But I would tell you, my first investment would be investing in a dirty dozen, connecting with mortgage person, appraiser, home inspector, title company, so I could learn as much as I possibly could about the business. I'd make sure that I added value to their lives first before going any further. And I would shadow a couple of people succeeding in this business. And then, podcast reading. People that read earn 9 times as much money in their lifetime if they read regularly. So, you've got to control an awful lot of what comes in along with what it is that you're sending out. Because if I get in front of you and I finally got an appointment and I'm not very good at what I do, it was probably pretty pointless, right?
Yeah, and it's going to be fairly apparent. I think that's one of the biggest problems in our industry, is that people come in and the advice I was given was go get a client. And I'm like, but I don't know what I'm doing. How can I can't really go get a client and feel good about myself when I'm going to lead them through a process that we're both going to learn about at the same time. It doesn't.
Yeah. Onboarding is so important.
More mentoring,
more right.
Teaching.
Onboarding is incredibly important. You need to have an environment. You need to also be in an environment that you trust, right? People grow in an environment that they trust. And that is unbelievably important. During the pandemic, prior to the pandemic, during the recession, the worst recession since the Depression, in about 2010, Exit was running out of money. It's a privately held company in Canada. They have the best banking system in the world. And so they didn't know anything about short sales. They don't have foreclosures. The average down payment is 30%, a little different than the average down payment in the US.
Right.
And so that foreclosures and short sales hit a nerve. And we decided in leadership, the chief operating officer, our chairman and founder, and myself, who are we as a company? And we determined that we were a company built on human potential, and we were going to outsell and outthink our way out of the recession. And we did. And we didn't lay anybody off. And only people that took a hit and pay were the people in leadership. And that built a respect line with our people, so that when the pandemic hit and we reached out to everybody and said, hey, this is what's going on, everybody raised their hand and said, how can we help? And within 48 hours, we launched, it's a year ago this week, right? Within 48 hours, we launched a stimulus package worth in excess of $50 million. We didn't lay a single person off. We said, we're going to pour into them everything. Eckhart Tolle, yoga, the power of your subconscious mind and ramping them up to keep them educated and help them mental health wise, as well as being better at the business. And that happened because they trusted us. And so everybody, including the person that answers the phone, said, how can I help? You want to build that kind of an environment around yourself, whatever way you have to. If you're a small mom and pop or you're a bigger company, you've got to build that environment around you that you know that you all have each other's back and that you're in that right environment. And, you know, that being said, you got to be tough but fair too. I have a rule, 90 days to greatness. We're going to know within the next 90 days whether I'm the right person to get the most and the best out of you, because I'm not going to sit here and spend the time with somebody that isn't willing to come halfway, right? There are a lot of people in this business that are sitting here waiting for the phone to ring or waiting for something to happen. And that actually hurts all of our reputations.
That's for sure. Tami, you are an incredible storyteller and a great resource for us. I'm watching the time here, and I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Octavius, who has a few people who have asked some questions in the chat. And hopefully they'll hit you with something that stumps you. That would be really fun. And anytime you want to move from this,
well, isn't that nice?
I'd welcome that.
Well, the chat has been a little quiet, so if you are tuning in, please submit a question to Tami or even one of the, I won't call us panelists, but myself, Middy, Jenni, here hosting. But I have a question for you, Tami. In this, what was the traditional industry of suit and tie and looking your best and having this perfect presentation, and as we start to shift to more authenticity and bringing your whole self to work, which is starting to become a cliche, but like, do you really see the value in people just being who they are in this business, or are we still in that traditional sense of button up and make sure you look your best and feel your best and you have this perfect presentation because that's what our clients expect?
Well, I think when you look your best and you feel your best, you probably do your best, right? If you're in sweats from 2 days ago, you probably aren't feeling so great, and you might be in a little bit of a funk. But I believe wholeheartedly in being true to yourself. In fact, I believe in it strongly enough. I have a tattoo on my back that says, "Be true to yourself, and you'll be able to lead others." I think that people do want to see that authenticity. They don't mind if you have a few flaws, but you also have a job to do. And so sometimes that job to do, if you want to kind of match up with who you're serving, right? So that you're making people comfortable, because the more comfortable a client is, the easier you're going to build a relationship. But that being said, the more comfortable you are, the easier you're going to build a relationship, right? You have probably, most of us have 12 to 25 people that are the most influential people in our lives that probably point more real estate towards us, more transactions towards us, more opportunity. We need to serve those people to the best of our ability. And that doesn't mean that you have to be in a suit and tie. It has to match up with where the marketplace is that you're serving. But I do think that bringing your authentic self, I think that that's a priority. We are now an empathy-oriented nation. COVID probably escalated that for us. It probably started even more, started around 9/11, and it's become more and more so that relationships matter more. We become better neighbors. We become more community-oriented, and people want to see the real you, right? They don't want to see something that was just, you came out of a box. I've met an awful lot of empty suits in my life, but I've also met an awful lot of people in a sweatsuit that were brilliant. So I think it's, obviously good hygiene is a very strong plus in a business that you deal with other people, but being true to yourself and being comfortable in your own skin is the best way to build a relationship, because it'll be a real one.
Thank you so much for that. Jenni, Middy, any other questions?
I don't have any other personal questions. Jenni, did you have anything you wanted to add? That's a no from Jenni, who's muted.
No, but I did just see a comment pop up below. So
yes. So Karen asked, one, what was the digital business card code again for you, Tami?
85377. If you text 85377, and then in the message, just punch in TAMI, that's my first name, and hit send, you'll get my mobile business card sent to your phone. Give me 24 to 48 hours to get back to you. I'm on an awful lot of planes, but I have 9 speaking engagements between now and Wednesday afternoon. But I promise I always return my calls.
Awesome. And Karen had a follow-up question. What type of martial arts do you practice, and how long you've been practicing, and how does it impact your professional life?
Wow, more than 30 years. And Taekwondo, everyone in my house is a second-degree black belt or above, so it's pretty much the wrong house to break into. But it's really a great mind-body connection, right? You think on your feet. And so the more that you are mentally connected to your body, the more you can accomplish other things as well. And it really is much more about the mind-body connection. I love to fight, but it's much more about the mind-body connection and maximizing on what it is that you can do with your body and what it is you can do with your mind. And I love the discipline. I love we raised our kids doing it 3 times a week for 15 years. And it was probably one of the best decisions we ever made. No phone on the way there, no phone on the way back. And everybody found strength. It definitely helps personally and professionally, there's no doubt.
Awesome. I can't fight, so maybe I need to get into some martial arts.
No, we know that, Octavius.
Just send you know what, if you don't fight, you just need to be able to run faster than whoever else is around you.
Exactly.
And I did run track, so I'm good there.
Tami, tell us about that Batman on your wall.
Okay.
What was that, Miss Middy? I'm sorry, I missed that.
The Batman on her
We
wall.
lost our son.
Oh.
Our son Shane. We used to call Batman. We lost him a couple of years ago.
I'm so sorry.
And thank you. And he was the epitome of Batman. And so it says everything's impossible until it's done.
Beautiful. That's
So
right.
you know, once you do it, everything's done. So anyway, it's obviously a constant reminder of Shane, which is a good thing, and it makes me want to be better.
Fantastic. My daughter, when she was 4, also made me call her Batman for about 8 months, I think. And so I became known as Batman's mom.
I love it. I love it.
She said, your daughter, did she just say her name is Batman? I said, yes, she did.
So Tami, in the interest of time, because we know you're extremely busy and you have a flight to catch, wanted to ask if you have any final words for those folks listening now and that might watch the recorded version of this, just words of positivity, inspiration, or anything you would like to leave with us.
Well, you know, I think I mentioned it earlier, but I think it kind of bears repeating. I think that the best way to change truly the trajectory of your life so that you can hit the target as many times as you want. Number one, you really need to know what you want. You need to know what you want. You need to surround yourself with people that bring the best out in you and that really have your back. But you have to have at least a couple people around you that ground you, that are really realistic. I'll give you a great example. My husband, I was on my way back after making the most money. I was in my late 20s. It was the most money I ever made in one day from my own sweat, right? And wasn't from selling a prop. I wasn't from, flipping a house or any of that. It was from my own hard work. And I made $150,000 in the same day. And I was so excited. And I called him on my ride home and I was like, I'm so excited. This is so awesome. I'm going to get a tattoo on my butt that says, show me the money. And here's where the grounding comes in. He said, honey, in about 10 years, that's going to look like a comic book left out in the rain. And he grounded me in one flat second, right? And made you face reality. You need to have some people around you that are going to make you face reality. When you get a great idea and you think it's a great idea, give yourself the 10 seconds of courage. And more than anything else, you've got to act. Every single day, you've got to act. You've got to be physically active. That's why I think you should have an action plan more than just a blueprint. An action plan. What am I going to do physically that's going to help me to get the targets, tactics, and timelines accomplished that I want to accomplish? My entire focus for what it is that I do as far as leadership goes in my job and in my organization is to decide that every day I'm going to lead with love.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for giving us your time and your heart today of all days, which again, I'm humble and honored to have you, one, help us launch our women's network because it's important. We've seen a lot of organizations kind of, especially LGBTQ organizations, kind of ignore our women colleagues and members, and their impact is so important, so great, that we couldn't have picked a better day to launch the Women's Network and pick a better panelist to share so authentically. So I wanted to thank you so much from myself, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council, and all of us here at the Alliance for sharing with us today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm so proud of you guys. It's wonderful to see how much you're growing and how really focused you are on not just everybody connecting together as a group, but honestly fair housing and really taking that mission forward. I'm really impressed. Thank you very much.
Well,
Thank you.
well, that's it for all of us here at the Alliance. Tami, safe travels to wherever you're heading. Everyone stay safe, stay healthy, and continue to love each other.
Thank you.
All right. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Justin.